what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, we're going to start with an article about how companies are working with college students to combine social media marketing and product placement. And listeners, it's not too late to cut a deal with me to get some love on my MySpace account. Just use my AOL email address and we'll get set up. Today's guest is Molly Gross, an attorney here in Western North Carolina. We'll be talking about trademarks and how to protect your business's name, logo, and other important information. We'll wind up with our Small Business of the Month feature, where we'll highlight some businesses that you should be checking out. My name is Jeff Newville. I'm your co-host and director of the Small Business Center here at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is Dean of the School of Business, Industry, and Technology at Catawba Valley Community College. Gary, how you doing today?
Jeff, I'm doing great. Had a great pre-meeting, I guess you'd say, talking about our football teams, which is a little worrisome for you and me, but not for our guests.
Well, that's true. You know, and the University of North Carolina is anxiously awaiting basketball season, and Wake Forest is enjoying
a soccer team that's very, very good.
We
soccer
don't
talk
team.
About football.
And our guest Molly went to Appalachian State, and they were nationally ranked for the first time this year, and then they lost. So
that's probably because
win some, you lose some.
Coming to be with us.
Okay. Anyway, but. And it's almost Halloween?
Yes, I'm excited about that.
Are you dressing up this year?
No, just the way I dress scares a lot of people.
Okay. Well, anyway. Gary, I sent you an article.
I know you are, by the way. You always dress like that.
Gary, I sent you an article this week that we were going to chat a little bit about. And it's an article that was in the New York Times in August by Claire Ballantyne, where she was talking about how there are companies out there enlisting college students to promote their products and on their social media, and how it's also sort of an opportunity for college students. And just thought it was interesting that since you and I work at a college,
yes,
and we also we also talk about business stuff, so I thought it would be an interesting article.
I think it was great. I've heard a little bit about it, but I really started getting more and more interested for my kids that are in college right now.
Because you want them to be social media influencers and get lots of money?
Some money.
You can get some money there? So
yeah, I was really excited about it. I'm planning to send it this afternoon.
So I mean, I remember, back in the day when people spent money promoting their products in movies and on television shows, and now companies are trying to identify influencers who I guess have a big following on various social media things, and a lot of it is Instagram, but also Twitter and Facebook, but Instagram seems to be a big one. And they talked about apparel products, energy drinks, different ways that you might be doing that. Don't know if anyone is out there trying to come up with ways to market their products, but and I know you interact with a lot of the students, with the co-eds and whatnot, so you probably are always checking out their social media, right?
I interact with them a lot, and I talk to them a lot. Now, I don't know much about social media, but I was excited. And I know my kids do a lot of social media, so I really was interested in it. And I will send it to them this afternoon. I'm just tongue-in-cheek comment. I'm going to send it to they could use a little bit extra money. Maybe they can advertise many of these products.
So do you think it's effective advertising? Do you think it's deceptive advertising? Do you think it's the fake news?
It could be.
All the above?
All the above, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think it is effective, but I didn't read. I think in the very first one that one of the people that was one of the influencers didn't use the product. Did I read that?
It's certainly possible. I don't know. I mean, do you think
that would be fake? A little bit of fake news.
Do you think all the celebrities use the products that they promote?
I think they do after they've been paid.
Probably. All right. It also talks about FTC guidelines in that if people are using their social media accounts to advertise products, they are supposed to disclose on their accounts the brands they represent, and the students are supposed to, but it doesn't sound like they always do, use the company name and maybe put a hashtag that is sponsored by a certain company, but something, if you're a student out there listening, that's something that you just want to be sensitive to because you don't really want to get in trouble with the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission.
If they get involved in it, they need to make sure they know the basic rules that they need to abide by. But I really think it's something that, obviously, there are tons of college kids that are taking advantage of it.
Well, and I get the sense that it's a fairly inexpensive way to promote your products. I mean, we always talk about making sure that you identify who you're trying to reach. And, it sounds like if you're trying to reach me or you, putting it on college kids' Instagram accounts is probably not the best way to do it.
Probably not going to work.
But if you're trying to reach other college kids, and that's your target customer, if you can find those influencers and get them to use their product, and maybe give them some energy drinks as opposed to give them money, or maybe give them a little bit of money.
Some of the people are getting products
in
lieu of money. So I think that makes sense.
Just another marketing idea for our listeners to be considering.
Well, and also the fact that things are changing, that every company needs to be looking at what's going on now. You can't do what you did 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and really not even a year ago. You got to figure out what's the newest, hottest thing we can do.
Did you have a MySpace account?
No, I didn't.
Okay, well,
do you still have your?
You'll have to go look. Yeah, I have to go look. Check out my AOL account as well. Let's move on.
Okay.
All right. Let's introduce our guest today. Our guest is Molly Gross. Molly, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Molly is an associate with Patrick Harper & Dixon, a law firm here in Hickory, North Carolina. She's a native of Charlotte. She attended Appalachian State University, and we're sorry that Appalachian State lost a football game this week. They don't lose many football games.
We do not lose often. It's not common for us. It's kind of an unusual feeling.
Well, and is this your first podcast as well?
This is my first podcast.
All right,
yes, avid listener, but my first appearance.
Oh, good answer.
Yeah.
Okay. And attended law school at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill.
Yes, so I'm used to winning in both basketball and football.
Not in football in Chapel Hill, but in Appalachian State. All right.
I like to pick the winners.
There you go. As long as you avoid Duke, you're okay here.
Always.
Okay.
Always. I was raised a Duke fan, but quickly changed my ways.
Okay, that's great.
Good pivot.
You've got a lot of great credentials that you did in school, and now you're residing here in Western North Carolina, where I noticed based on your company website, you enjoy spending time with friends and your dog named Mr. President.
Yes, my dog, Mr. President. We recently got another puppy named Chief Justice, so we kind of have a theme going. We're big West Wing fans.
Big West Wing fans?
West Wing fans, yep.
Okay. Well, I'm a fan of West Wing as well. I've got a West Wing shirt and everything. And the next time we speak to our listeners, we'll be through midterm elections, and we'll break that down for our listeners. I'm sure they'll be fascinated to get our take on that. But we asked Molly to join us today to talk about trademarks, and Molly was kind enough to actually do a seminar for our Small Business Center several weeks ago on trademarks. Did a fabulous job. Thank you very much, and appreciate you joining us today. So, I know when I meet with people, they're often confused on the differences between trademarks, patents, and copyrights. So when we're talking trademarks, Molly, what are we talking about, and how does that differ from copyrights and patents? And people don't always know what they need. How do you differentiate there?
No, they don't always know what they need. Well, that happens a lot. Frequently, people call our office and say, I need a copyright, and I'll say, well, let's sit down and talk about what you need, because copyrights, trademarks, and patents are all what are collectively known as intellectual property rights. And frequently, someone may actually need all three, but that's because trademarks, copyrights, and patents protect different things. Trademarks specifically protect brands for goods and services. So kind of what lawyers would call what are things that are source identifying. Brands are the things that identify the source of your goods to consumers. So trademarks protect things like your name, but they also protect things like your logo, and are actually a lot more expansive than just that. It can be things like colors or sounds too. Copyrights, on the other hand, those protect original works of authorship. So in a much more layman term, they protect things like books, music, movies. They even protect things like commercials or jingles that you may hear in an advertisement. But it protects the kind of creative side of an authorship. Patents, on the other hand, protect invention. So if you create a new technology, if a pharmaceutical company makes a new medicine, patents are what protect the kind of mechanism that makes that product work. Patents and copyrights are also a limited time thing. You can only have those for a limited period of time. Trademarks, on the other hand, they don't always, but they can last forever. So, and so for one product, you may have all three. For example, if you have a new medicine, then you may have a patent for the actual mechanism for how that works, a trademark for the name or for the logo, and then a copyright for the advertisement. So they just protect different kinds of things.
And I would assume from a legal perspective, there are lawyers that specialize in certain areas, and
Yes.
that not any general lawyer is going to be a patent attorney. That's sort of an area of specialty.
Yes, actually, this is an unusual fact about the law, but patent attorneys, you have to have a specific degree and pass a separate bar exam. So,
Oh, really?
If
I did
you
not
are,
know that.
yes, and it's the one area of law that you actually cannot do if you have not passed that separate bar exam. So patent lawyers must have a degree in basically a STEM background: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, something like that, because
We're
it's
out,
hyper
Gary.
technical.
That's not us.
Not me either. Not me either. But that's also why they get paid the big bucks. So yeah.
So, but you work with trademarks and copyrights, and we're going to talk mostly about trademarks. But from a copyright perspective, that's written words, and just out of curiosity, is there a special process that you go through there? Or if it seems like I've heard if I write something and I've already copywritten it.
That's exactly right. So that's how trademarks work too. As soon as if I'm a songwriter and if I quickly jot out this song, technically speaking, that copyright already exists. Same thing for a trademark. As soon as I start selling a good or a service, the trademark exists organically. That's what we would call the common law trademark or copyright rights. But in reality, if you would like to enforce that, if you want to really protect those rights, then you would need to register that copyright with the U.S. Copyright Office. And so there is a process for copyrights. It's actually not very difficult for depositing what the Copyright Office calls depositing your work with the Copyright Office. It's a small form, and they have a wonderful collection of all these kinds of songs and photographs and all kinds of wonderful things that they'll keep there for you.
So, well, speaking of trademarks, moving back over to trademarks, I think you said that technically you might not necessarily have to register a trademark, but I imagine things can happen if I don't register a trademark. I mean, what bad things or what sort of risk do I put myself at if I don't register a trademark?
Right. So like I said, trademarks already exist just by virtue of using them. That being said, risk is your real concern. So, number one, registering a trademark is a great way to put the world on notice that you're using that mark. Trademarks, by registering them, give, especially a federal registration. There's a difference between a state registration and federal registration, and we can talk about that later. But depending on how you register it, it puts not just that area on notice that you are the legal owner. It creates a presumption that you own that mark. So if someone tries to come back later and say, I didn't know that you're in a small town and you're doing this very locally. Well, it doesn't matter if I'm doing it locally and you're doing it in 4 states. If I was there first and I registered it, there's a legal presumption that I'm the owner and that I have the exclusive right to use it. So that's one of the reasons why it's a good idea to register it.
Is there talking about different companies in different states, is there anything where somebody could have a logo or trademark for different industries?
Right, yes.
So that they're not competing?
Yeah, and the United States Patent and Trademark Office, or as lawyers may call it, the PTO or the USPTO, has their system for determining what areas overlap enough that you can't do it. So if I'm registering a mark for computers, then they would say, great, no one else can have that mark in computers. But they may also say you can't have it for mobile apps, because that's a little similar. It's not quite the same, but it's similar. But if I was selling food, they would say, okay, those are not similar enough where anyone would be confused.
So if I'm doing Apple Records, someone else might do Apple Computers.
Right. And some brands are so big, initially they're not, but they're so big that that you can't really get anything in the same space. Like Coca-Cola. It doesn't matter that they make soda. They also sponsor NASCAR teams, and they make T-shirts, and they do all kinds of things. So I still can't register Coca-Cola for T-shirts, even though that's really not the core of their brand. Some are so big that you can't, but for something much smaller, you could use the exact same name, and they would say that was they may say that's okay.
So if I wanted to open up my Walmart plumbing business, someone might have a problem with that?
I think that someone may. Okay. I can't identify who that may be, but
good to know. Good to
You
know.
also mentioned colors, because when I was in the textile business working at college, we got in a lawsuit with one of our competitors because they had and wanted to tie up the color green. It was a funky shade green, and we had a green color that was not exactly the same, but it was similar, and we got into a knockdown, drag-out fight, and I said, I can't believe that we're fighting over a color. But you mentioned that in your intro.
Yes, you can. You can certainly trademark colors. It happens a lot in the college context. Things like that burnt orange for University of Texas. That's kind of a
Carolina blue.
Carolina blue. I mean, certainly I would argue that is very specific to the University of North Carolina. Another really famous example is Tiffany blue. So what companies, I want to say frequently do, but if a color that you use is so synonymous with your brand, really is how a customer may identify you, then a company can register that Pantone color. So it's very specific. It gets hyper technical with what colors are going in, what hues are going in to make that color, but you can register that Pantone color. And basically that means that if I'm a jewelry maker, I can't put Tiffany blue on a box. Even if I put Molly's jewelry on it, it doesn't matter. If a customer sees a jewelry box and it's that Tiffany blue, they're automatically going to think that it's Tiffany.
Right.
So you can
it makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense, because when you think about that, I mean, another example is UPS Brown. If I saw a package delivery service in a brown uniform or a brown truck, I think it's UPS. Yep. It doesn't matter if they put a different name on the side. In my head, I think that even if I know, okay, maybe they're not the exact same, I think maybe they're related, it creates a connection that is false. Yep. But some of my other favorite examples are, one is colors, but the other is sounds. And when I did the seminar at the Small Business Center, I had some examples there that I think are really fun. But one of my favorites is the Pillsbury Doughboy noise. When they poke his belly and he goes, I won't do the laugh because
I could poke Gary's belly.
Yeah, if you could, that would be great.
No,
see if he does it. But you hear that little laugh and you know automatically that is Pillsbury. If you're in the other room, you know what's coming on. One of the other ones I used was Law and Order. If you hear that dun 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 dun, if you're in another room, you know someone else in your house is watching Law and Order.
The one that I like that you said was Darth Vader's heavy breathing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if another galactic style, media came out and started using that heavy breathing, Star Wars has trademarked that, and that would be a big no-no because you think that that's Darth Vader. You know that's Star Wars. So
Into sports, so college fight songs, can they be?
That I think
when I hear Notre Dame or I hear Carolinas, I recognize them.
I think it's definitely possible. I don't. Now, of course,
they're not too worried about that.
Yeah, no, I don't know that they're not too worried about it. I think certainly, it would definitely be copyrighted because it's an original work of authorship. It may expire after a period of time, and there are certain ones that would be so synonymous. I don't know of an example that is registered, but maybe a listener will chime in and say, "I can't believe you don't know that this song is," and I'm sure that there is one. I just don't know one off the top of my head.
Well, you're talking about various areas when someone comes to you and is talking about trademarking something, and I guess one of the things that you must be thinking about is whether it's eligible to be trademarked. So if it's a name or something how do you determine if it's something's even eligible to be trademarked? What's your thought process there?
So there are some baseline rules right off the bat. Someone doesn't even need to, I don't even need to do a search for some things to tell if something is registrable or not. Certain things are just not, you're not able to do them. So something that's really generic for the same term. So I like to say, if I am Apple Computers, my name is Apple, and I sell computers, that's okay. Because selling an Apple, when you think Apple, if they're selling a computer, they're totally unrelated. Trademark law would call that arbitrary. But if you are selling apples, someone else needs the word Apple. And so you can't take a generic word and trademark that, because other people, consumers need it to be able to understand what they're buying, and other people who are selling need it to be able to describe their goods. So if it is highly generic, it's going to be out. There are some other interesting rules about registering your own last name. So people who own family businesses sometimes come in, and we have to deal with that, because generally a surname on its own, even with another generic word, is going to be a problem. But then there's the other issue of whether or not someone already has it. And so that goes to doing a trademark clearance search and figuring out, is someone else using this name already? Some of those are, sometimes you can tell right off the bat. Someone comes in and you think, yeah, no way, someone else has got to have that. And sometimes they don't, and you get lucky. But then we go into a clearance search process. And many entrepreneurs have done that on their own already. Frequently, people come in and say, yeah, I kind of already know that there are some other people using this name for something similar.
But we want a clever lawyer to figure out how to get through that process?
Right.
Okay.
And you may be able to still, if they don't have a trademark registered, then you may be able to do it. You may be limited in your rights, but you could maybe still do it. So, but, you know, a lot of times people already know. And then you could also go to the USPTO, and they have a really public-friendly process for figuring out on your own whether or not something is trademarked. The USPTO does a great job of making themselves available for the public to use, and they have some great videos that explain to you how to do that search and how to determine whether or not something's available.
We'll get back to your show in a moment. Just a reminder, you're listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Find out more at themesh.tv and give us feedback on what you like. And now, as promised, back to your show.
And I remember when you conducted your seminar, I think you went online and sort of walked people through that process a little bit. And easy for you. You've done it many a time, right. I suspect. I mean, for someone doing it the first time, they might benefit from someone who has done it before and gone through the experience, because there's some searching techniques that it look like you know, as someone that does this on a regular basis, we're pretty familiar with. So it's out there, you know, but you have to play around with it a little bit.
Definitely.
Once you determine something can be trademarked, what's, you know, and you know, we're only going to get so in depth, but just in terms of a process for securing a trademark, and what does it cost people to do that? You know, what's the basic process that they'll go through to actually secure and get their trademark?
So if you're registering with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, the process is all online. You can do it by paper if you so choose. It'll cost you about $150 extra, so we encourage you to do it online. But it's pretty simple. You put in your information about who owns the business. If you have a doing business as name, you add that. And then you will upload, if it's a logo you're registering, you'll upload that image file. If it's a name, then you just type it in, and you will select what kind of good or service it is. The USPTO allows you to use what I call their canned language, which means that they already have a great deal of descriptions of goods or services that you can just kind of tick off and select from their list. And that makes, for an entrepreneur, for someone who's not a lawyer, doing it fairly simple. Now, some people have marks that are too complicated for that really to make sense for them. But the other thing you need to submit with it is what they call a specimen, which is, I think, an unusual name for what it is. But basically, it is proof that you are using your goods or service in commerce. So if you're selling a good, that is your name or logo on a tag of, say, the shirt or
shipping label. I think we had to do that.
Maybe that could possibly. I've never
shipping
used,
box.
Yes, a box could possibly work, or like a sticker that you put on.
Because we put a new logo and they want it.
And do they
Right.
want the actual physical specimen or a picture of said specimen?
Right. Good question. Do not, under any circumstances, send them the actual physical item. I mean, I'm sure they would be nice about it, but they don't want that. They want a photo.
It's sort of some extra swag for the folks that work there.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm sure they would love it. And then if you're selling a service, then sometimes people will do like a picture of their website where you can actually purchase, or a sign outside of your business proving that you are using with a service is a little more complicated than a good, because you can put it on the good and sell it. So that's sometimes the trickiest part for people is the specimen. And then if you're using their canned language, it's $225. If you want to put in your own language, that's how I do it. But, I'm a lawyer, so I sometimes have very specific things I want to include. It's $275. And then if you wanted to send in a written one, it would be $400. So, and I should say that's per class of goods. So if you wanted to be in like a computer class and a business services class, it would be $275 per class. So that's something to think about too. Oftentimes when I work with entrepreneurs or small businesses, we talk about what's the core of your business, because those can add up. And so you need to decide, okay, what's really the most important? Oftentimes that's the name or the logo with the name or something like that, rather than sometimes small businesses don't really need to skip ahead to colors. Perhaps we need to just focus on the core, because that can be quite expensive over time.
And as you proceed with the application, assuming it's accepted, how long does that last for, and does it have to be renewed at some point in time?
It does. So trademarks can last forever, but they do need continual maintenance. So between years 5 and 6, after you get your registration, between the 5th and 6th year, you need to submit additional documentation, basically another specimen showing we're still using it. Here's proof that we're still using it. And then you need to do the same thing between year 9 and 10, and then every 10 years thereafter. But if you continue to do that, you could keep it in perpetuity.
So you better put something in your tickler file to remind you to
Absolutely.
Renew at certain points, or you might lose your trademark.
Absolutely. Now, the USPTO will, as long as you continue to update your email address, they will alert you and say, by the way, it's coming up. But, just think about how much the world has changed in the last 10, 15, 20 years. I know I'm not using the same email address I was when email came out. And some people have had trademarks since, for 100 years. So
You can still get an AOL address if you need one, Molly.
I think you have to pay for an AOL address now.
You got to know the right people.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'm interested by the fact that you have to provide a specimen or sample or something, or a picture of said thing. So if I'm just starting a brand new business, is it appropriate for me to try to trademark my name day one, or should I be in business for 3-6 months to show that it's in use, or what's your advice on that?
Sure. You do not even technically have to even have a sale to be in use. As long as you are offering the goods or services to consumers, you can apply for a trademark. And in fact, you can do that before. You can apply for a trademark before you're using it. So there's a few different kinds of applications. One, the main application is for a mark that's already in use. But if you are getting going with your business and your IP rights are a top priority for you, you can actually register. Well, you can't register, but you can apply for your trademark before you begin using it. Now, every 6 months, they're going to ask you to pay them a little bit more money and to keep that application alive. And then when you start using it, that's when you send them the specimen. So you can apply for it in advance and just keep that intent, they call it an intent to use application, alive, but you can do it beforehand if that's something that's important to you. I think it's a business decision as to, am I really worried someone's going to take this? People often think that someone's going to be after their great brand idea, and so if that's important to you, then you should.
And we've been talking about registering your name, I guess, on the federal level,
Right.
and If you do that, is there really? I guess you can register your name on a state level, or I guess even an international level? Question mark. I mean, if I register my name on the federal level, should I even bother with the state level? No disrespect to the state of North Carolina, who might appreciate that revenue.
Right. I can't see that there would be value to that myself. I mean, I think for some businesses it does cost less. It depends on the state that you're in. In the state that we're in North Carolina, I think that the application process is more difficult, but it's also cheaper. State registrations were very popular for a long time because a lot of small businesses only existed in their state. With the advent of the internet, not many businesses, many businesses have interstate commerce. So if you wanted to have an interstate business, then I think it makes the most sense to do a federal registration. But if you think that you will only be in North Carolina and your competitors will only ever be in North Carolina, then, there are some businesses that are like that. But certainly the rights that you get for a federal registration are so much more than you would get for a state registration that I wouldn't myself.
You saw my eyes light up and my mouth open about international, because the company I was with before we started going into Europe, which wasn't as big of a problem getting registered, but when we went into China and Asia, it was a significant problem.
Right.
Trying to lock in our name and our brand logo.
Yeah. So one of the good things about a federal registration is that it can be used, you can parlay it into an international registration many times. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. So the U.S. is part of something called the Madrid Protocol. That sounds very legalistic. It is, but it's a treaty that the United States has for international intellectual property rights, and specifically, it's one of the ways that you can use your federal registration. The country it's going to still needs to approve it, but it is a great way to kind of get your base here and then go international if you need to. But
it is expensive. You mentioned that,
right?
So
yeah, it's not cheap.
That was one thing we looked at every time. I guess the re-up it or what we needed to do. I think we had to pay an annual fee.
I think it depends on. Yeah, it depends on where you're going.
We had to decide whether they were important, which countries were important for us, versus just having them out there, because it was a full-time job for somebody to kind of keep up with all those things internationally.
Yeah, and keeping track of what registrations are coming out. I mean, the USPTO does that. The U.S. one of the wonderful things about having a federal registration is that the USPTO will put the halt on a registration that they have found to be confusingly similar with yours. They will not sue for you. They will not. They won't use their lawyers to fight someone who is violating your trademark. But they will stop a new registration. But if something gets through, they have this process called publishing, and they publish all the marks that are up for registration. And some people's job is to go through and make sure that nothing that's been published violates their trademark. So, if you're a small business, maybe you just need to kind of hope and pray that the USPTO catches it. But certainly large companies have IP lawyers that that's one of their jobs.
And if I think someone is infringing on my name, let's assume it's more of a domestic issue as opposed to an international issue. But if I've trademarked my name and I think someone's infringing upon it, what can I do? What should I do?
That is an important question, because getting a trademark is one thing. If you want to keep a trademark and you know that someone is infringing on your trademark rights, you have to do something about it. There's really you cannot allow someone else to continue using your mark. And so sometimes the best thing to do is call a lawyer. You don't have to do that, but lawyers often start with a cease and desist letter.
That's just like reckless self-promotion there, Molly. Come on.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe that I would say that.
All right.
But, people can write their own cease and desist letters, certainly. Sometimes they just get more scared when it comes on a lawyer's letterhead. So, but you need to make them aware and ask them to stop. If they don't, then you're going to need to end up filing a lawsuit, in which case I don't want to promote lawyers again, but if you're filing a lawsuit, it would just be maybe a good idea just talk to a lawyer. See.
Actually, from your Entrepreneur Exchange business advisors in that situation, I think we would also advise you to secure a lawyer.
I think that that's a good idea. So that's definitely one of the things you need to do is you have to enforce those trademark rights if someone is infringing.
And what sort of risk do I put myself in if I'm infringing on someone else's trademark? If I start my Walmart plumbing business next week, which I might do. I've been talking about that for some time.
I've heard you.
Right. Well, if you do start your Walmart plumbing business, you should know that you may be the subject of some upcoming litigation, particularly from one company I can think of. And particularly if someone has a federal registration, sometimes state laws also allow for statutory damages or attorney's fees. But at the federal level, the statutory damages can get really high, up to hundreds of thousands of dollars per infringement, plus attorney's fees for IP lawyers, not cheap. And then on top of that, something that lawyers call treble damages, which is a fancy way of saying triple damages. So whatever the amount is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, triple it, So that's if someone has a federal registration. So I think if you found yourself in a situation where you think, I'm not sure, I think I could be infringing this, find out if you really are infringing it. I mean, certainly people put a lot of money into their brand, and so you don't want to switch it without knowing that you really need to. But you could be, if you are, then you could be forced to disgorge all of your profits. And certainly if you're running a business, that's not ideal, having to disgorge your profits.
I might go with
It just sounds bad.
I might go with the Kmart plumbing service. I think they got other issues to worry about at this point.
They're fighting it on many fronts. Just see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure they would care at this point in time. I don't know. Molly, you've been very, very helpful, and I have a new special feature that we're going to do today. You're the first person we're doing this with.
This is exciting.
We're going to have a lightning round of questions.
Oh, great.
Wow.
So
I love it.
This is for Molly. So Molly, first question: who's your favorite football team?
My favorite football team. Well, what level are we talking about? Carolina Panthers.
You just an answer, Molly. It's a lightning round.
Carolina Panthers, University of Tennessee.
Okay, so that's
Appalachian
enough.
State. I get 3.
All right. Who is your favorite legal hero?
I feel like this is a really cliche answer. She's very popular right now, but Ruth Bader Ginsburg is.
That's a good
she's
answer.
a classic.
Your dog, Mr. President's favorite snack?
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter. Okay. Related question: is a hot dog a sandwich?
Oh no! Well,
Oh.
Open face. Open face.
Okay. What are you dressing up as this Halloween?
Oh, a disgruntled lawyer.
Okay. Last question. If you were going to advertise a product on your social media account, what would that product be?
Probably pasta. I love pasta.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Molly, and we're not even going to ask her for a particular brand name because, we don't want to put her
We don't
on
want
that
to promote.
spot. All right.
They have to pay me for that.
All right. As well they should.
I'm basically a college student, right? I'm basically.
You're not that far off from being a
Yeah,
college
we're going to
student.
say that.
I'm sure you have thousands of followers on your Instagram account.
Of course.
You're an influencer.
I am an influencer.
All right. Well, Molly, you've been a wonderful guest. We appreciate it. If people
you for
want to
having
find you, where can they find you, or where can they find your firm?
We're at patrickharperdixon.com, and all of my contact info is there, and I'm happy to talk about trademarks or anything else.
And if you're visiting and want to meet the president, you could also try to find Molly or Mr. President the dog.
Yeah, Mr. President is about to get ultra famous because my husband and I are going to be in Southern Living soon.
I didn't even bring that up.
I know, our dog is in almost all of the photo. Mr. President was highly featured.
Well,
That's very exciting.
And that'll be coming in the spring, I believe.
Yeah, it'll be out in March. So, Hickory will be featured, but really, I mean, it's good that Hickory's there, but really, Mr. President is the star. Of the show.
It's not you and your husband, really. It's Mr. President. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, we very much appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It sounds like we should invite Mr. President at some point to join us.
He's got a lot to say.
I bet he does. He does. At the end, we like to talk about small businesses that we've come across. Molly, do you have a small business that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I do. I have a favorite small business that I like. It's called Arts and Crafts HKY, and they will do like private paint lessons, but they also do public parties and stuff like that where you can go and they'll teach you how to do a specific kind of a specific painting that they're doing for everyone. But I really enjoy it because they kind of use art as therapy for a whole group of people, and it's process over product, and I think it's really enjoyable and a fun thing to do.
So that's Arts and Crafts HKY,
Yes,
which I assume is here local.
It is.
But if I Google in
put
Arts
that
and
in,
Crafts HKY, I can find it out there.
You would find it there. Yep.
All right, very good. Well, thank
I
you.
think we should look it up for the therapy.
Well, all right. Well, Gary, tell us what your small business is. We'll determine what sort of therapy you need.
Well, my small business of the month puts back in line with my interest of always trying to highlight food or animals when I'm spotlighting. It's our very own alumnus at CVCC, Megan Johnson. She's opening her own bakery this week at Viewmont. She's a graduate of Challenger and CVCC. She spent 2 years at Appalachian State studying food science and dietetics. That's when she discovered her passion for baking in a baking class. She transferred to Johnson & Wales, which makes sense, in Charlotte, finished in a blazing 1 year by taking extra classes and graduating just past December. Long story short, things fell in place for her. She's now in the former Cornerstone Bakery in Hickory, which may be hard for people to find that are listening to us in California and New York, but we all know where that is. She's ingeniously partnered with Morganton's based Dapper Donut to occupy the front retail space, and she's using the back space for a commercial kitchen for her pastry business. It's really exciting for us to see our own students take a big step and be successful. So we're going to go see how she's doing this weekend.
Oh, very good. Very good. Good to hear. Well, my small business of the month is a company I get a email about from a North Carolina business publication, and they were highlighting a business that I thought was interesting. It's called No Evil Foods, which is a Asheville-based area company that has started making plant-based meats with quirky names such as Comrade Cluck, the No Chicken, and they're working out of a shared kitchen at AB Tech Community College in Candler, North Carolina. They started in 2014. They've had revenue growth of 100% per year. They're in the process of expanding to a larger space in Weaverville, North Carolina. And just as a little background, and this is new to me as well, and that I'm, I sort of enjoy the meat here, and that's sort of where I get my protein, but I respect other options out there. Plant meat is just what it sounds like. It's a meat made from plants. It's 100% plant protein that has the taste and texture of meat. Their meats are, meats are 100% plant-based, non-GMO. They harness the protein from beans, wheat berries, and yeast, and use organic herbs and spices to create their flavors. And they do it with very super simple ingredients. The company's products are now sold at stores including Earth Fare, Whole Food Markets, and independent grocers. This summer they added New York-based Wegmans Food Market, which is a pretty well-known and respected supermarket. And last month it was announced that they're going to be launching their products in 250 Walmart stores in 2019. Co-founder Sadra Shadell says the rollout will make healthy plant-based foods accessible to more shoppers. 91% of Americans live within 10 miles of a Walmart, and the success of our mission is largely based on our ability to provide compromise-free alternatives to everyone, she said. So some products they offer. I mentioned Comrade Cluck, which is an alternative to their chicken. They also offer something that they call the Stallion, which is an alternative to Italian sausage.
I thought you were going to say horse meat.
I did too.
What?
We went down real fast.
It can be used for horse meat too, but they compare it to Italian sausage. They have something called El Zapatista, which is their spicy, fiery Italian sausage, and they have something called Pit Boss, which is their barbecue. Mm. And the article I read, and I'm quoting directly from there, so because I don't want to get in trouble, any legal trouble. It says, if your cousin is bringing his vegan girlfriend to your house for Thanksgiving, No Evil Foods has you covered, because they also have something called The Pardon, a plant-based alternative to the conventional holiday turkey. So you can get The Pardon.
That's clever.
So you can visit their website, get more information at www.noevilfoods.com. So,
Mr. President can't wait to try it.
So Joe Bob says check it out. You should be checking that out. If you've got a suggestion for our Entrepreneur Exchange Small Business of the Month, you can email it to us at eexchange@themesh.tv. And if we use your idea, we'll give you a Entrepreneur Exchange prize pack. We want to thank Molly Gross for joining us today. Molly, thank you so much. You've been a great sport and very informative as well. And as Molly said, you can find her and her firm at www.patrickharperdixon.com. We want to thank the Mesh Podcast Network. You can download us at themesh.tv or subscribe at the iTunes Store. And you should also check out all the other cool podcasts that the Mesh offers. They got a lot of them out there. So
Fantastic.
we hope everyone has a good fall. We will look forward to talking to you guys in about a month.
Take care.
Yep, thank you.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.